How's it going, guys? Collin here with Yoshimura Cycling. Today we're going to be installing some Cane Creek eeWings with the Yoshimura Works Edition finish on them on this beautiful YT Capra. Stay tuned. We're going to weigh these ones once I pull them off and show you a couple little install tips and tricks to get these on perfect first try without all the stringy grease everywhere. So stay tuned, let's get it. So step one, obviously we have to pull these cranks off. And for reference, before you guys get too deep on any of this, make sure you refer to the Cane Creek diagram to make sure you have the right installation application with your chain line and with your spacing. There's some spacers that come with it, so refer to those first. We'll link it as well, but make sure you look over that and make sure it's compatible with your bike first. All right, check this out. Shimano crank bolt tool. It's got this little like hook on the end, in case you guys didn't know, little magic trick. So that hook goes in and pulls out the little locking tabs. You can get your crank off. There you go. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and get this chain guide out of the way, and this thing's due for a new chain. Already has a SRAM cassette. We're gonna be putting on a SRAM chain as well as a SRAM chainring, because the T-type 8-bolt chainring is backwards compatible with Eagle chains. So in case you guys are worried about, hey, I got my Eagle group set and I want to, obviously this is 8-bolt, so you're going to need an 8-bolt sprocket. They make these in a 3mm offset, which is good for boost, and it's backwards compatible with your SRAM Eagle chain. There you go. What the heck is this? All right, we got the cranks all free now. We'll go ahead and tap them out. Mine's the spacers that are gonna be on here from the factory. We'll put those back together so we don't lose any small parts. Sweet, got the cranks off. We got the bottom bracket out. Now we're gonna go ahead and open these beautiful cranks, get them unboxed. We're gonna put the chain ring on first and then throw them on the scale. See what kind of weight difference we're talking about here. So this is exactly how it'll look when they arrive to your doorstep. Professionally cleaned by hand, every single one of them. That beautiful finish on it. Awesome. I'm gonna try not to get my dirty fingerprints all over it. We're gonna be working on the drive side crank first. I'm gonna keep that nice and clean. Okay, I'll just go over this. So inside of your goodie package, you're gonna have the hardware you need, as well as a little QR code from Cane Creek that'll link you straight to the install instructions. Please refer to that depending on the bike and the application you have. You have your chainring bolts, your main crank fastener, as well as the preload ring, and 2 little rubber plugs after you put your pedals on. Pro tip, copper paste is your best friend for best fit bottom brackets. So in this application, we're going to be using a SRAM T-type chainring, and it keys on a specific way, just onto the crank, as you see there. Take note of that, but before you go installing anything, another recommendation is to put copper paste around the stress areas. This will just keep it creaking from over time. Pro tip I learned from working in the shop. Grease can wash off very easily, whereas copper paste is going to stay there. I mean, even when you go to replace your chainring, you'll probably take this off and still see the gold copper paste sticking on there. So slip it in there. You can give it a little wiggle to make sure it all settles in there happily. Now we'll go ahead and get our Torx T20 bit. I'm going to be using all Wera tools here. It's just the safest. This bit actually has what's called a holding function on it, so it'll hold the bit for you, which is pretty cool. Makes it a little easier to start the threads. Now we're getting the bolts started by hand here. And you'll feel that they got a little bit of a resistance once you're 2-3 threads in there. They do have a pre-applied Loctite. I am using the ones that came with the eeWings. I think the SRAM ones have that as well, but these bolts obviously look really cool, so we're gonna use them. Sweet, so now we're gonna get them torqued down to precisely 4 Newton meters. We'll do a little bit of a pattern and then go around them one more time, just to be safe. Another pro tip I have for you, depending on the bit that you're using and how tight it fits on the fastener, always keep an extra hand on here to make sure that the torque wrench isn't walking around on it. This bit has a very tight fit on it, so I'm not too worried about it walking out of place and rounding these screws out. All right, we got our chain ring on. Let's go ahead and pull this other crank out of the box. And what we're gonna do first and foremost is get some anti-seize on the threads of the preloader adjuster as well. This is gonna make sure it's spinning smooth over time. And same thing as the chain ring, this isn't gonna wash off as easy, so way less chance of it seizing over time. Always put a little bit on here, and then I'll grab the actual preload nut itself. Just way less chance of making a mess here. Also a good time to make sure that the lock nut for it isn't threaded too far in, or else it's gonna make the threads real stiff. So what we're gonna do is thread this all the way in until it stops. Right there, and just back it off a little bit, so that way it's finger tight, but at the very end of the threads. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, what is the weight difference? Besides it being light and stiff and having such an amazing coating on it, here's your bonus parts. Got this SLX crank, coming in at 633 grams, same crank with the bolt and chain ring. We're gonna go ahead and do an apples to apples test here. Here we go, 483 grams. Not bad. Okay, sweet. So now we're gonna go ahead and slide these cranks in. First, making sure to put the bearing shields for your bottom bracket on. One on the drive side, one on the non-drive side. And as well as the Cane Creek spacer that comes with it. We checked the application notes and it calls to use this spacer on the drive side, so we'll get that on. But I'm making sure as well to put a little grease on the bearing shield itself. Keep dirt and grime out for miles to come. As well as a little bit of grease on the spindle. Never want to install cranks dry. Go ahead and give them a light coat. As well as the bearing race itself. What I like to do is just put a little dab in there, take my finger, do a few laps with it. Good to go. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then, so I got the crank started. They're almost all the way through. Just gonna give them a little light tap with the mallet, making sure it has a soft end on one side. Just wanted to get it to protrude all the way to the drive side. Excellent. All right, so we got the crank seated all the way. And what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and put a little grease on the bearing shield. And go ahead and stick this cap on there, making sure it's nice and clean. You don't want any grime behind it. And a little bit of grease that you put on there should help it stick. Just wanna make sure that thing is aligned when you put your crank on, then it's not binding on anything. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and prep this bolt using the Loctite that came with the Cane Creek eeWings. We're gonna go ahead and put a little bit on the threads. Not too much. I'm just gonna use my finger to spread it around a little bit. Keep in mind that the spacer on here is directional. The conical shaped side is gonna go into the crank arm. And we're gonna go ahead and put some anti-seize on that as well, just so we can get an accurate torque value when we go to install it. Making sure to put anti-seize, copper paste on both sides of this washer, depending on which one sticks, which one slips. We're gonna do the same thing to the drive side crank arm, just in the spot where the bolt's gonna contact on the inside. Just like that. And then last spot, we'll go ahead and put a little bit of copper paste right into the hearth joint of the crank. This to prevent any kind of creaking. This is the way I've done it for years and it always works great. Awesome. Okay, we got our cranks ready. We got our bolt ready. We just need to make sure we use our Cane Creek spacer that came with the crank as well and is called for to use in this application. A little trick that everyone knows, you can put a little grease there. Help this stick right where you want it in place. That way it's not falling off the crank when you go to install it. Everything's gonna stay right in place as long as you're careful. The bit I'm using is just 8mm Wera hex key. It's got a little ball bearing detent in the top, so it's gonna prevent this from falling out. So it's really easy to hold everything aligned while you get the thread started. Now comes the important part. Torquing this nut down. Do it right, use a good wrench. If you don't have one, go to your local shop. They're more than happy to help you out. Torque spec's been the same on these since they came out. It's 52 Newton meters on the dot. We'll go ahead and get this started. My best tactic for torquing cranks is not pushing down on the stand or pushing down on the bike, but rather holding the crank and the wrench together, pushing them together right in front of you, and then hold it there for a couple seconds after you hear the click. There we go. Next, we're gonna go ahead and set the preload. Make sure to hit the crank all the way towards the non-drive side. That way there's no load on the preload cap. You're not using the preload cap to pull the crank into place. So we'll go ahead and get it started. Give it a couple taps. And then that way, on this side, let's see when we go to start our preload, it's nice and loose. I can just take that right in, about finger tight, and then a tiny bit more, just a tiny bit. 2.5 mil T-wrench, one of my favorite tools. And don't go too crazy on this. You'll kind of feel the bolt stop as the little open ends from the side of the preload ring touch each other. That's about as far as you want to go. We're just leaving the chain guide a little loose. Next up, we got a nice brand new XX1 copper chain. Oh, look at that, dude. Nice. You get this thing running. However you do it is up to you. But the way I do it's up to me. That started. Pop this little master link in place. Yo. Now I'll take this thing up to the climbing gear real quick. And get our chain guide here into a happy spot, which is about there. Just enough room to get to these bolts here. Now what I'm doing is eyeballing things from the back. I'm just looking straight down the cassette with it somewhat in the middle and just eyeballing the chain line, make sure it's in a happy spot. We got no rubbing. Chain guide's exactly where it belongs. I'll go ahead and turn that clutch back on and we will reinstall our beautiful Yoshimura Chileo SS pedals. Lifetime warranty. This is the black with gold pin. These definitely got some miles on them, but the owner is very careful with his products. So what we'll do, since these cranks are titanium, we're going to do the same process with copper paste on the spindles. This is just same reason it is everywhere else. Protecting the metals, protecting from corrosion, and making sure that they don't get seized on there. Get 8 mil. Get these things threaded back on, and we're about in business. Easiest way to remember how pedals thread on is they thread on the same ways that the wheel turns. They're both going to go forward. To get them off, they both spin backwards. A little back brake action, give it a snug, and we're all set. Sweet. And then here we go. You guys have been wondering, what are these for? What are these? This is the finishing touch right here. That's it, little Yoshimura end cap. What I'm gonna do is put a little bit of grease just in the socket area of the spindle, just to protect it. It's steel. I'll do the same on the flip side. And then we'll go ahead and put these plugs in. Kind of like our exhaust system, it's got a little wash plug on it. And we're gonna do the same thing for the crank to protect all that grit and grime and stuff from collecting in there, because we all know that that fills up with junk, and then you go to put a key in there and then it only goes in halfway, and then you step on the Allen wrench and it goes. So this is long-term protection, and when you go to take your pedals off, you pop this right out. It's nice and clean in there. I just like starting on one side and then working it around with my fingers and then making sure to push it in all the way until it's flush. Just like that. We are set. Little finishing touch. I'm just gonna go through the shifting, make sure it's all set, check my beat tension. Obviously it still has the same size chain ring, but it just has a new chain, so it might be a little bit of stretch. Just wanna make sure it's all buttery smooth. So for maintenance, cleaning, go ahead and get yourself a microfiber. Make sure it's clean, free of dust, grime, grease, all that kind of jazz. And rubbing alcohol. I've tried cleaning these with like Simple Green and some other stuff before, but it always leaves a streak behind. So this is your winner. This is what you should use to clean and maintain the cranks and finish. Obviously, there is some copper paste still on the inside, and I don't want to contaminate the rag, so I'll use the dirty one first, get that junk out, then follow through with the one with the rubbing alcohol. Sweet. Here we go, rock and roll. Awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy your cranks, which will probably last you the rest of your life. I've had mine for 6 years now, so many miles to come. They still have the same warranty through Cane Creek. And if you have any other questions, if you're kind of in between, wondering what length to get or application of the bike, you can either reach out to us or Cane Creek. We can kind of share some documents with you, but feel free to reach out and enjoy your new cranks for miles to come. Thanks.